Finally, the USC offseason is coming to a close, and the Trojans are looking forward to their first regular season game. Welcome to the inaugural Trojan Tuesday broadcast. I am Jonathan Khamis, being joined by Michael, Lev, and everybody here in the Santa Ana office of the Register is jealous of you, Michael, because you are traveling to Hawaii to cover the Trojans' first game.
Yes, there are worse destinations than Hawaii. It's a pretty good gig.
Let's quickly preview this game, Michael. The Trojans are 21-point favorites. Nobody expects this to be a close game. What are your thoughts heading into it?
Hawaii is a spread passing team, and USC has an almost all-new secondary. So you put those two things together, and there are some challenges in there. But I think the problem Hawaii is going to have is they're not going to be able to stop USC. USC is going to roll offensively, and it's eventually, I think, going to turn into something of a rout.
I'm going to go with the 28-14 score, USC winning. Maybe a little bit conservative, but it will be the first game of the year. What do you think?
I think it's going to be a higher scoring game.
Okay.
Something along the lines of, I don't know, 42 to 17, something like that. Yeah, it would be.
The Trojans, as we know, have a lot of NCAA sanctions. They will not be able to play in a bowl game, but they are actually ranked 14 in the AP preseason poll. Now, my question is, should the Associated Press even rank the Trojans?
Well, I think that they should. If you think about it, there's really no true national championship in college football anyway. I mean, the BCS is a creation. So even though USC is ineligible for the quote-unquote national championship game, there is no national championship game. Therefore, in my mind, it's okay for them to be ranked, and really that's all they kind of have going this year because there is no BCS.
Please, can we have a playoff system already? How many times do we have to say this? But let's get down to the nitty-gritty here, Michael. They have a brand new coaching staff coming in. Lane Kiffin, what can we expect out of this coaching regime?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to do well. He's always been a good recruiter, and talent, recruiting talent is at least 50% of the game in college. He and Ed Orgeron are going to bring good players here. The question is, can they bring enough good players with the sanctions that are about to hit?
The rookies coming onto the field, which guys are going to be impact players and which guys are going to get a lot of playing time going into the season?
Yeah, it looks like two freshmen are going to start. One of them is Robert Woods, wide receiver, who's a track star here in the state of California, super fast. The coaches are really impressed with how quickly he has picked up the playbook. The other guy is an out-of-state guy, Nikel Roby. He's my size. He's about 5'8" and 165.
Good luck to him.
And but he's super athletic.
Okay.
Great leaping ability. He's their most productive cornerback in training camp, including senior Sharice Wright.
Trojans playing these rookies because they're good, of course, but the lack of depth. I mean, let's face it, the Trojans will only have maybe around 70 players this year in uniform, and that might take a big factor going later into the year as we take a look at the USC schedule. And Michael, let's look at these teams. Kind of a softer schedule than usual. Of course, we already mentioned starting out in Hawaii, but where do you see the pitfalls that could be upcoming with this Trojan schedule?
It's sort of a schedule that gets harder as it goes along. It's a very soft non-conference schedule. They shouldn't have any problems sweeping Hawaii, Virginia, and Minnesota. I see no reason why this team shouldn't be 5-0. And then you start to come into the challenging games at Stanford. For example, that's a team that steamrolled the Trojans last year at the Coliseum. They have to go to Arizona, which is a team that a lot of people think are on the rise. I'm not so sure. And then later in the year, they're at Oregon State, and they haven't won in the state of Oregon since, I believe, 2006. UCLA, on the other hand, even though they've had a lot of injuries in training camp at the end of the season, at the Rose Bowl, the Bruins possibly having a lot to play for, and maybe at that point, the Trojans not having that much to play for, I think that could be a game where we see an upset like happened back in 2006.
Yeah, I actually agree with you, and I think depth is going to be a huge issue when it comes to that point of the schedule. But this is an interactive show here at Trojan Tuesday, and we're going to take a question from one of our readers on the blog. And this comes from Torpedo. I don't know if that's his first name or last name, but he asks, if Baxter, meaning Dylan Baxter, were not DQ'd from the Hawaii game, do you think that he'd have been Tyler, meaning Mark Tyler's backup at this point?
I think he definitely would be. They're not giving him any reps leading up to the Hawaii game because he's been suspended. He's not going to play, but he might be their best playmaker. And he will be that kind of change of pace runner with Mark Tyler and Alan Bradford being the power guys.
Okay, now finally to conclude this show, we are going to make predictions for the rest of the year. I'm going to be a little bit conservative here. They went 9-4 last year. I think those depth issues are going to come into a big-time factor later in the year. I'll say the Trojans go 8-5 this year. Michael?
Yeah, I don't think you're endearing yourself to Trojan Nation right there. I'm gonna go with.
I'm not sold on Lane Kiffin, but I will give him a chance.
A lot of people agree with you, but I think looking at the schedule, looking at the talent they have, if they can avoid, a ton of major injuries, I see them going 10-3.
Wow.
With the losses being at Stanford, at Oregon State, and against UCLA.
All right, that does it for the first ever inaugural Trojan Tuesday broadcast. I am Jonathan Khamis. He is Michael Lev, and thanks for watching.